Kelly sat alone in the back of the combat training hall, watching her classmates prepare for the day's exercise. The other cadets talked and laughed together, checking their gear and weapons. None of them looked her way. After 6 months at the Galactic Defense Academy, Kelly had grown used to being invisible. The training hall stretched wide across the center of Fortress Prime, the massive space station that served as the galaxy's premier military school. Species from 40 different worlds trained here, learning to fight together and protect the peaceful planets of the Alliance. Humans were the members, admitted only 2 years ago after Earth made first contact with the galactic community. Kelly was one of only 2 humans on the entire station. The other, Brad Cooper, worked in the engineering section, and she rarely saw him. That made Kelly the only human in active combat training, surrounded by aliens who had been bred for war across countless generations. Cadet, Commander's voice cut through the noise. The instructor stood at the front of the hall, his 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. His species had natural plating that could stop most small arms fire. You will observe today's exercise from the command post. Kelly stood up. Sir, I request permission to participate in the field exercise. The room went quiet. Several cadets turned to look at her, their alien faces showing amusement. Eth, a massive who stood nearly 3 meters tall, let out a rumbling laugh. The human wants to hunt, Eth said to his friends. Perhaps we should give her a children's trainer to chase. More laughter followed. Kelly kept her face neutral, though her hands clenched at her sides. She had heard worse over the past months. The other species saw humans as weak. Earth was classified as meaning the gravity and conditions were harsh compared to most planets, but the aliens did not see that as making humans strong. They saw humans as barely surviving on a brutal planet, lacking the natural weapons and armor that true warriors possessed. Commander raised one hand for silence. Cadet, you lack the physical advantages of your classmates, that have superior strength, that possess telepathic coordination, that have armor. What do humans have? Kelly met his eyes. Persistence, sir, and the ability to adapt. Pretty words, said. But this exercise requires combat capability. You will observe and learn. Dismissed. Kelly sat back down, her jaw tight. She watched as the other cadets gathered their equipment. Each of them had weapons suited to their species. Eth carried a heavy plasma cannon that would break a human's arms from the recoil. La, a slender with silver skin, wore a neural interface that let her coordinate with her teammates through thought alone. The exercise was simple in concept. The cadets would deploy to 4, a forest moon used for training. They would hunt combat drones programmed to act like enemy soldiers. Points would be awarded for successful eliminations, tactical movement, and team coordination. It was meant to be routine, a standard test that every cadet completed multiple times before graduation. Kelly would be watching from a safe distance with minimal equipment. Just another reminder that humans did not belong here. After the briefing ended, Kelly made her way to the equipment room. A board supply officer handed her a basic, light combat armor, a standard plasma sidearm, and a communication headset. No rifle, no heavy weapons, no specialized gear. That is all you need for observation duty, the officer said, already turning away. Kelly checked the plasma sidearm. It held 20 shots before needing a reload. She had 2 spare power cells, 60 shots total. The weapon was accurate to about 50 meters, though Kelly had practiced stretching that range in the simulator. She thought about her father back on Earth, teaching her to hunt in the mountains of Montana. He had used an old rifle that held 5 rounds. You do not need a lot of bullets if you make each one count, he would say. Patience and precision beat firepower every time. Kelly wished her father could see her now. He would probably laugh at the irony. His daughter had traveled across the galaxy to join an alien military, only to be told she was not good enough to fight. The transport ship departed 2 hours later. Kelly sat in the rear compartment while the other cadets filled the main cabin. Through the doorway, she could hear them discussing strategy and making bets on who would score the most eliminations. La's voice carried over the others. I predict 17 eliminations for myself. My telepathic range will allow me to sense the drones before they detect me. Strength matters more than tricks, Eth replied. I will simply walk through their fire and crush them. Kelly closed her eyes and leaned back against the cold metal wall. She had stopped trying to join their conversations months ago. They did not want to hear from her, and she had no interest in their boasting. The ship shuddered as it entered 4's atmosphere. Kelly opened her eyes and looked out the small window beside her seat. The moon's surface was covered in thick forest, broken occasionally by clearings and rocky hills. It looked almost like Earth, which made sense. The Alliance chose 4 for training because its environment was considered moderately challenging. Not too harsh, not too easy. For Kelly, it looked like home. The transport landed in a wide clearing at the edge of the forest. Commander stood as the rear hatch opened, letting in the humid air. Cadets, you have 6 hours to complete the exercise. Scoring begins now. Cadet, your observation post is on that ridge. He pointed to a rocky outcrop about 2 kilometers north. Maintain communication protocol and do not interfere. The cadets filed out, eager to begin. Kelly waited until they had all gone before grabbing her gear and stepping off the transport. The ground was soft under her boots, covered in moss and fallen leaves. The air smelled of growing things and damp earth. She started walking toward the ridge, following a game trail through the trees. The other cadets had already disappeared into the forest, moving fast and loud. Kelly could hear them crashing through the underbrush, too confident to bother with stealth. As she walked, Kelly's training from Earth came back to her. She automatically noted the wind direction, the type of plants around her, the small signs of animal activity. Her father had taught her to read the forest, to understand that everything had a pattern and a purpose. Halfway to the ridge, Kelly stopped. Something felt wrong. She could not explain it, could not point to any specific detail. But her instincts, honed by years of hunting, were screaming at her to pay attention. She knelt down and examined the ground. There in the soft dirt beside the trail was not the standard issue boots that the cadets wore. This print was wider, heavier, with a different tread pattern. Kelly touched the edge of the print, fresh, made within the last hour. She stood up slowly, her hand moving to her sidearm. Training drones did not leave footprints. They hovered on anti-gravity platforms. Someone else was on this moon, someone who did not want to be found. Kelly activated her communication headset. Command, this is Cadet. I have evidence of unauthorized personnel on 4. Request immediate. Static filled her ears. She adjusted the frequency, tried again, nothing but interference. The communications were being jammed. Kelly looked toward the forest where her fellow cadets had gone, laughing and confident. They thought they were hunting drones, but someone was hunting them. She had a choice to make. She could run back to the transport, try to get to safety, or she could go into T. Kelly moved through the forest with practiced silence. Every step was deliberate, every movement controlled. She had learned this from her father during long hunting trips in the Montana wilderness. Move slowly, watch everything, and never assume you are alone. The she had found stayed in her mind. Someone with military-grade equipment was on this moon, and they had jammed the communications. That meant planning and resources. This was not some accident or mistake. She followed the trail, reading the signs that most people would miss. Broken branches at waist height, disturbed moss, the faint scent of synthetic materials that did not belong in a natural forest. Whoever had been here was good, but they had not expected anyone to follow them. After 20 minutes of careful tracking, Kelly heard voices ahead. She dropped low and moved behind a fallen log, peering over the edge. 3 figures stood in a small clearing, checking their weapons. They were not human and not any species Kelly recognized from the academy. Each stood about 2 meters tall, covered in dark scales with natural claws on their hands and feet. They wore combat armor marked with symbols Kelly did not know. One of them spoke in a harsh, clicking language. Kelly's translator implant struggled to process it, then provided a rough conversion. The young ones from the academy are spread out through the forest, easy targets. How many? Another asked. 15 cadets. The commander says we take them alive if possible. They will bring good ransom from the Alliance. Kill any who resist. Kelly's blood went cold. These were not training drones. This was a kidnapping operation. Her fellow cadets were walking into a trap and they had no idea. She needed to warn them, but the communications were still jammed. She needed to get to the transport and activate the emergency beacon. But that would mean leaving the other cadets to face these attackers alone. Kelly thought of Eth and his mocking laughter. She thought of Law's dismissive attitude and Commander's certainty that humans were too weak for real combat. None of them had shown her kindness or respect. But they were still her fellow soldiers. And Kelly's father had taught her that doing the right thing mattered more than doing the easy thing. She studied the three attackers, calculating distances and angles. They were bigger than her and stronger. Their natural claws could tear through her light armor. In a straight fight, they would kill her in seconds. But Kelly had no intention of fighting fair. She pulled her plasma sidearm and checked the charge. Full power, 20 shots, she would need to make them count. The closest attacker stood about 30 meters away, his back to her position. The other two faced him, their attention focused on their conversation. Kelly raised her weapon, steadied her breathing, and aimed for the weak point where the armor plates met at the neck. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Squeeze, don't pull, smooth and steady. Kelly fired. The plasma bolt hit exactly where she aimed. The attacker dropped without a sound, dead before his body hit the ground. The other two spun around, weapons rising. But Kelly was already moving, rolling behind a thick tree trunk as return fire scorched the air where she had been. Contact, one of them shouted. We are under attack. They fired at her position, plasma bolts tearing chunks out of the tree. Kelly waited for the pause she knew would come. All weapons overheated. All shooters had to check their targets. When the firing stopped, Kelly leaned out from the other side of the tree and fired 3 quick shots. 2 hit the second attacker in the chest, punching through his armor. He staggered back, wounded but not dead. The third attacker rushed her position, moving fast with his claws extended. Kelly fired twice more, hitting him in the leg. He stumbled but kept coming, rage driving him forward. Kelly holstered her sidearm and drew her combat knife. It was a simple blade, standard issue, nothing special. But her father had taught her that a knife was just a tool. What mattered was the person holding it. The attacker lunged at her, claws reaching for her throat. Kelly ducked under his arm, slashed across his wrist, and rolled away. The attacker howled, blood streaming from the cut. He turned to face her, more cautious now. They circled each other. Kelly kept her weight balanced, her knife ready. She watched his eyes, reading his intentions. He feinted left, then dove right. Kelly was ready. She let him pass and drove her knife into the gap between his armor plates at the lower back. The blade sank deep. The attacker collapsed, gasping. Kelly pulled her knife free and stepped back, breathing hard. The wounded second attacker was trying to get up, reaching for his weapon. Kelly fired her sidearm once more, and he stopped moving. 3 down. She had killed 3 trained soldiers in less than a minute. Kelly's hands shook as the adrenaline faded. She had hunted deer and elk before, had killed to eat. But never another thinking being, never someone who could beg or plead or ask for mercy. She pushed the feeling down. There would be time to think about this later. Right now, her fellow cadets were in danger. Kelly quickly searched the bodies, taking weapons, ammunition, and equipment. She found a communication device on the first attacker and activated it. Voices came through, speaking that same harsh, clicking language. Her translator worked on the incoming signals. Team 3, report your position. Kelly stayed silent, listening. Team 3, respond. More voices joined in, coordinating their movements. Kelly counted at least 4 more teams, each with 3 attackers. 12 more enemies moving through the forest, hunting the academy cadets. She also heard something that made her stomach drop. They had already captured 3 cadets, Eth, La, and a named. They were being held at a central camp, waiting for the others to be rounded up. Kelly studied the map display on the communication device. The camp was 2 kilometers west, in a valley between 2 hills. The other attacker teams were spread out, moving to surround the remaining cadets. She could try to reach the transport, but by the time help arrived, everyone would be captured or dead. She could try to find the other free cadets and warn them, but they would not listen to her. They would probably think she was panicking or lying. That left one option: go to the camp, free the prisoners, and somehow deal with 12 trained killers. Kelly looked at her stolen equipment. She now had 2 plasma rifles, extra power cells, grenades, and body armor that almost fit her smaller frame. She had surprise on her side. The attackers did not know a human was hunting them. She thought about what Commander had asked her. What do humans have? Humans had persistence. They had the ability to adapt. And they had something these attackers would not expect. Humans were predators. For millions of years, her ancestors had hunted animals bigger and stronger than themselves. They used tools, tactics, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. Kelly stripped the armor from the smallest attacker and put it on. It was heavy and uncomfortable, but it would help her blend in at a distance. She took one of the plasma rifles and slung it over her shoulder, keeping her sidearm ready for close work. Then she started moving toward the camp, following the map on her stolen communicator. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the forest. That would work in her favor. Humans had good night vision, evolved for twilight hunting. These attackers seemed to rely on their daytime sight and technology. Kelly moved like a ghost through the trees, using every technique her father had taught her. She was patient, she was careful, and she was angry. These attackers had come to her training ground, threatened her fellow soldiers, and assumed they would face no resistance. They had made the same mistake everyone made about humans. They had underestimated her. As Kelly approached the first patrol, she remembered something her father had told her during their last hunting trip before she left Earth. "The most dangerous animal is not the biggest or the fastest," he had said. "It's the one that refuses." The forest grew darker as Kelly moved toward the enemy camp. She used the fading light to her advantage, staying in the shadows and moving when the wind covered any sound she made. The stolen armor helped her blend in, at least from a distance. According to the map on her communicator, the next patrol was 50 meters ahead. Kelly slowed her approach, watching for movement. She spotted them near a stream, 2 attackers filling water containers while the third kept watch. Kelly circled around them, moving uphill to get a better angle. She found a position behind a cluster of rocks and settled in. The range was about 40 meters. Not an easy shot, but she had made harder ones in training. She aimed at the watchman first. He was the threat, the one scanning the forest. Kelly controlled her breathing, let her heart rate slow, and squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt took him in the head. He dropped instantly. The other 2 grabbed for their weapons, looking around in confusion. They could not see where the shot came from. Kelly fired twice more, precise shots that ended the fight before it truly began. 3 more down, 9 attackers left, plus whoever was guarding the prisoners. Kelly moved down to check the bodies. She took more ammunition and found something useful on one of them, a remote detonator. She searched until she found the grenades it controlled, already placed along a path the cadets would likely use. The attackers had been setting traps. Kelly carefully gathered the grenades and the detonator. She might need them later. As she worked, she heard a sound that made her freeze. A scream cut short, then voices shouting in alarm. Kelly checked her communicator. One of the attacker teams had engaged a group of cadets. The transmission was chaotic, full of weapon fire and shouting. Then it went silent. A new voice came through the communicator, calm and controlled. Team 5 has secured 4 more prisoners, moving them to the main camp now. Kelly's jaw tightened. More of her classmates were captured. She had to move faster. She set off toward the main camp, pushing her pace but staying careful. As she moved, she started forming a plan. She could not fight all the remaining attackers at once. She needed to separate them, take them down in small groups, and create chaos. The sun had set completely now, leaving only moonlight to see by. Kelly's human eyes adapted quickly, letting her navigate the forest while the attackers relied on their technological vision aids. She found the next patrol near the base of a hill. 3 attackers moving in a standard formation, weapons ready. They were more alert now, aware that something was wrong. Kelly could not ambush them directly. They were too spread out, too watchful. She needed a different approach. She pulled out one of the grenades she had taken and set it on a timer. Then she threw it to the left of the patrol and immediately moved right, getting distance. The grenade detonated 5 seconds later. The explosion lit up the forest and the patrol rushed toward it, thinking they had found the threat. Kelly circled behind them and opened fire. She dropped the rear guard with 2 shots, then engaged the others as they turned. The fight was quick and brutal. One attacker got off a shot that grazed Kelly's arm, burning through the stolen armor. She ignored the pain and kept firing until all 3 were down. Kelly checked her wound. Not deep, but it hurt. She used a medical kit from one of the bodies to seal the burn and keep moving. 6 attackers left, according to her count, plus the guards at the camp. As Kelly approached the valley where the prisoners were held, she slowed down and started using real stealth. She could see lights ahead, portable lamps set up around a clearing, the camp. She crept to the edge of the clearing and observed. 8 cadets sat in the center, bound and guarded by 4 attackers. Kelly recognized Ed's massive form and Law's silver skin among the prisoners. The leader of the attackers stood near a communication console, speaking to someone off-world. Kelly could hear pieces of the conversation through her stolen communicator. "Yes, we have most of them. The ransom will be profitable. We will eliminate the rest and leave no witnesses." So they planned to kill the cadets who were still free. Kelly felt a cold anger settle in her chest. These were not just kidnappers, they were murderers. She counted the remaining attackers, 4 in the camp, 6 more somewhere in the forest, 10 total, against her alone. Bad odds, but Kelly had faced bad odds before. Her father had taught her that numbers mattered less than determination and tactics. She set up her ambush carefully. She placed the grenades she had collected at key points around the clearing, using the remote detonator to link them together. Then she found a position on the hillside overlooking the camp, about 60 meters out. Kelly looked at the prisoners one more time. La's head was down, her silver skin dim in the lamplight. Eth looked angry, straining against his bonds. The others seemed scared and confused. Kelly activated her communicator and switched to the emergency frequency. She could not get through to the transport, but maybe she could reach the prisoners. She keyed the transmit button. "This is Cadet. Stay down when the shooting starts." In the camp below, La's head snapped up. The telepathic senses must have detected Kelly's presence. She looked toward the hillside, then slowly nodded. Kelly raised her plasma rifle and took aim at the first guard. She whispered a prayer her father had taught her, a hunter's acknowledgement of the life about to be taken. Then she fired. The guard dropped. Kelly immediately shifted targets and fired again. The second guard fell. The leader shouted orders, and the remaining 2 guards opened fire toward the hillside. Plasma bolts seared the air around Kelly, but she had already moved to a new position. She triggered the remote detonator. 3 grenades exploded simultaneously around the clearing. The blasts threw dirt and debris into the air, creating chaos and confusion. One of the remaining guards was caught in the explosion and went down. Kelly fired at the last guard, hitting him twice. He fell behind a supply crate, wounded but still alive. The leader grabbed a weapon and sprinted for cover, shouting into his communicator. "All teams, return to camp. We are under attack." Kelly had maybe 2 minutes before the other 6 attackers arrived. She had to move fast. She ran down the hillside, firing at the wounded guard as she moved. He tried to return fire, but Kelly's shots found him first. She reached the prisoners and pulled out her knife, cutting their bonds. Eth stared at her in shock. "How did you?" "No time," Kelly said, cutting La free next. "Get to cover, more enemies coming." La touched Kelly's arm, her telepathic senses reading the human's emotional state. "You killed them, all of them you encountered." "I did what was necessary," Kelly said, moving to free the others. The eyes were wide. "I sense, focus, determination, you are hunting them." Kelly did not answer. She finished freeing the last prisoner and grabbed a weapon from one of the dead guards. "Eth, can you fight?" The massive flexed his arms, testing his strength after being bound. "Yes, give me a weapon." Kelly tossed him a plasma rifle. "The others are coming. We need to set up a defensive position." "You should run," La said quietly. "You freed us, let us handle this." Kelly looked at "I started this, I finish it." Before anyone could argue, the remaining 6 attackers emerged from the forest, weapons firing. Kelly and the freed cadets dove for cover as plasma bolts tore through the camp. The fight that followed was chaos. Eth roared and charged forward, using his natural strength to devastating effect. The other cadets who could fight grabbed weapons and joined the battle. But it was Kelly who moved through the fight like a shadow. She flanked the attackers, took careful shots, and used the terrain to her advantage. Every lesson her father taught her came into play. When one attacker tried to circle around, Kelly was waiting. When another thought he had a clear shot, she dropped him from an unexpected angle. She was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost in the darkness. The leader of the attackers finally saw her clearly and realized the truth. A human had destroyed his entire operation. A species he had never heard of, never considered a threat. He charged at Kelly with a roar, claws extended. Kelly stood her ground, weapon ready. They met in the center of the ruined camp. The leader was bigger, stronger, and more experienced. But Kelly was faster, smarter, and absolutely unwilling to quit. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, Kelly stood over the leader's body, breathing hard and covered in blood and dirt. The remaining attackers, seeing their leader fall, broke and ran. Eth and the others pursued them into the forest. Kelly sank to her knees, exhausted. La approached her slowly. "How many did you kill?" they asked softly. Kelly looked at her hands. 12, maybe more, I lost count. La knelt beside her. "I sensed you moving through the forest. Like a shadow with fangs striking from darkness, the attackers never knew what hunted them." Kelly closed her eyes. "I just wanted to protect you, all of you." "You did more than protect us," La said. "You saved us, alone." In the distance, Kelly heard engines. The transport was coming, finally responding to the emergency signals now that the jamming had stopped. She stood up slowly, her wounded arm aching. Around the camp, the other freed cadets were returning, staring at her with new eyes. Eth approached and stood before her. The massive warrior looked down at the small human who had saved his life. "I was wrong about you," he said simply. "About all humans." Kelly nodded, too tired to say anything. As the transport landed and Commander rushed out, La stood beside Kelly and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. She moved through them like a shadow with fangs. "That is what I will remember, Shadow Fang." The name echoed through the group of rescued cadets. By the time they boarded the transport to return to Fortress, the return to Fortress Prime was quiet. Kelly sat in the medical bay while a doctor treated her wounds. The burn on her arm was cleaned and wrapped. She had bruises across her ribs and a cut on her forehead she did not remember getting. The doctor, a gentle with 4 eyes, worked in silence. When he finished, he stepped back and looked at Kelly with something between respect and fear. "You are very lucky," he said quietly. "Another centimeter and that burn would have severed an artery." Kelly nodded but said nothing. She did not feel lucky. She felt tired and hollow. Through the medical bay window, she could see the other cadets gathered in the corridor. They were talking in low voices, occasionally glancing her way. La stood among them, explaining something with her hands. Eth listened, his expression serious. Commander entered the medical bay, his 4 arms folded behind his back. He waited until the doctor left before speaking. "Cadet, I need your full report of what happened on 4. Kelly straightened in her chair despite the pain. "Yes, sir. I discovered unauthorized footprints near my observation post. When I attempted to report it, communications were jammed. I tracked the intruders and discovered they were planning to capture or kill the training cadets. And then I engaged the enemy, sir. I eliminated the first patrol to prevent them from warning the others. Then I continued to engage enemy forces while moving toward their base camp where they were holding prisoners." His eyes studied her. "How many enemies did you personally eliminate?" 12 confirmed, sir. Possibly more during the chaos at the camp." The commander was silent for a long moment. 12 trained warriors, one of the most feared raider species in this sector, and you defeated them alone." "I had advantages, sir. They did not know I was there. They underestimated human capabilities, and I used tactics they did not expect." "What tactics?" Kelly thought about how to explain. "Ambush, stealth, patience. My father taught me to hunt on Earth. These enemies were more dangerous than animals, but the principles were the same. Track your prey, study their patterns, strike when they are vulnerable." Walked to the window, looking out at the other cadets. "I dismissed you from the field exercise because I believed you were not ready for combat. I believed humans were too weak, too slow, too fragile." "Many people believe that, sir." "I was wrong," turned back to face her. "I evaluated you based on physical characteristics and species averages. I did not consider human innovation, adaptability, or determination. That was a failure of leadership on my part." Kelly did not know what to say to that. An apology from a commander was rare. "The other cadets are calling you Shadow Fang," continued. "The name has already spread throughout the station. By morning, the entire academy will know what happened on 4. "I did not ask for a nickname, sir." "No, but you earned it." Moved toward the door, then paused. "There will be an official inquiry. The attack was not random. Someone gave them information about the training schedule and location. We will find out who." After the commander left, Kelly sat alone with her thoughts. She had killed 12 people today. 12 thinking beings with lives and families and futures. The fact that they were enemies, that they would have killed her and her classmates, did not make it easier. She thought about her father and wished she could talk to him. He had served in Earth's military before becoming a hunting guide. He would understand what she was feeling. The door opened again. La entered, moving quietly, sat in the chair across from Kelly. "May I speak with you?" Kelly nodded. "I want to apologize," La said. "For the past 6 months, I treated you with dismissal and contempt. I believed my telepathic abilities made me superior to you. I was wrong. You were not the only one. No, but I should have known better. When I sensed your mind during the battle, I felt something I have never encountered before. Focus so intense it was like a blade. Determination that would not break no matter what happened. And underneath it all, compassion. You risked your life for people who had shown you no kindness." Kelly looked down at her bandaged arm. "I could not leave you there. It would not have been right." "That is what makes you remarkable," La said. "Not your combat skills, though those are impressive, your moral courage. You chose to protect us when you could have saved yourself. My father taught me that the measure of a person is what they do when no one is watching. When there is no reward, no recognition. You do the right thing because it is right, not because someone will praise you for it." La smiled, a gesture she had learned from observing humans. "Your father sounds wise. I would like to meet him someday." "I think he would like you." They stood to leave, then paused. "The other cadets want to see you. They want to thank you personally. But I told them to wait until you are ready. Take your time, Kelly. You have earned rest." After La left, Kelly laid back on the medical bed and closed her eyes. She was exhausted, but sleep did not come easily. Every time she started to drift off, she saw the faces of the warriors she had killed. She told herself it was necessary, told herself they were enemies who would have murdered innocent cadets, told herself she had no choice. But she still saw their faces. Hours later, Brad Cooper came to visit. The human engineer sat beside her bed and handed her a cup of coffee from Earth, real coffee that cost a fortune to ship across the galaxy. "Heard you had a rough day," he said with a slight smile. Kelly took the coffee gratefully. "You could say that. The whole station is talking about you. Shadow Fang, the human who took down a raiding party solo. You are famous, Kelly." "I do not want to be famous. I just want to do my job." Brad nodded, understanding. "I know the feeling. But like it or not, you just changed how every species in the galaxy sees humans. We are not weak anymore. We are not the new kids who do not belong. Because of you, they see us as dangerous." "Is that a good thing?" "Better than being seen as victims." Brad sipped his own coffee. "My grandfather fought in a war on Earth. He told me once that the worst part was not the fighting. It was coming home and realizing you were different from everyone who had not fought, that you had seen and done things they could not understand." Kelly looked at him. "Does it get easier?" "I do not know. I have never been in combat. But my grandfather said the key was to remember why you fought. Remember the people you protected. Remember that you did what was necessary, not what was easy." They sat in silence for a while, drinking their coffee. Eventually, Kelly asked, "What happens now?" "Now you heal. Then you face the inquiry. Then, if I had to guess, you get promoted and recruited by every special operations unit in the Alliance." Kelly shook her head. "I just want to finish my training." "You just survived something that would have killed most trained soldiers. I think you are past basic training, Kelly." 2 days later, Kelly stood before a formal inquiry board. The room was filled with high-ranking officers from multiple species. Admiral Grant, the highest-ranking human in the Galactic Defense Force, sat at the center of the panel. Kelly gave her report, answering questions about tactics, decision-making, and combat actions. The board asked detailed questions about each engagement, examining her choices. Admiral studied her carefully. "Cadet, you eliminated 12 enemy combatants in a 6-hour period. That is an extraordinary kill rate even for experienced soldiers. How do you explain your effectiveness?" Kelly thought about her answer. "Sir, I used the advantages humans possess: persistence, adaptability, and the ability to read patterns. I also had the element of surprise. They had never fought humans before. They did not know what to expect. And if they had known, if they had been prepared for your tactics, then I would have adapted, sir, found a different approach. Humans are good at changing strategies when the situation demands it." One of the alien officers, an admiral, leaned forward. "Some might say you took unnecessary risks. You could have retreated to the transport and called for help. By the time help arrived, my fellow cadets would have been captured or killed, sir. I made the choice I thought was right." Admiral nodded slowly. The choice to protect others at great personal risk, that is the foundation of military service. The inquiry concluded after 3 hours. Kelly was dismissed while the board deliberated. She waited in the corridor, watching the stars through the massive windows of Fortress Prime. The station orbited a blue giant star, and the view was beautiful. Ed found her there. The massive approached slowly, as if uncertain of his welcome. "Kelly, may I speak with you?" "Of course." Ed looked uncomfortable, which was strange for a warrior of his size and reputation. "I owe you my life. If you had not come for us, that would have killed us all." "You do not owe me anything, Ed. We are fellow soldiers." "I treated you badly. I mocked you and dismissed you. I believed humans were weak and unworthy of the academy." He looked down at his hands. "I was a fool. You are the strongest warrior I have ever met, and it has nothing to do with physical strength." Kelly did not know how to respond to that. "I want to ask something," Ed continued. "When you are assigned to your first unit after graduation, I would like to serve with you, if you will have me." Kelly looked up at the towering alien. "You would trust a human to watch your back." "I would trust you to lead me into battle. There is no higher honor I can offer." Before Kelly could answer, the inquiry board's door opened. Admiral stepped out and gestured for her to return. Kelly walked back into the room and stood at attention. Admiral spoke formally. "Cadet Kelly, this board has reviewed your actions on 4. We find that you acted with exceptional courage, tactical brilliance, and moral integrity. Your actions saved the lives of 8 fellow cadets and eliminated a significant threat to Alliance operations." He stood and approached her, carrying a small case. "It is the judgment of this board that you be awarded the Crimson Star for combat valor. This is the highest honor the Galactic Defense Force can bestow." The Admiral opened the case, revealing a medal shaped like a red star. He pinned it to Kelly's uniform. "Furthermore, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Junior Lieutenant and assigned to Tactical Operations Command upon graduation. Congratulations, Lieutenant." Kelly saluted, her mind reeling. "Lieutenant, the Crimson Star, assignment to Tactical Operations." As she left the inquiry room, she found a crowd waiting. Her fellow cadets, instructors, and officers she had never met. They applauded as she walked past, and Kelly felt her face flush with embarrassment. La and Ed stood at the front of the crowd. They smiled and spoke clearly. 3 months passed after the incident on 4. Kelly returned to her training, but everything had changed. The other cadets no longer ignored her. They watched her during exercises, studied her tactics, and asked for her advice. Some of them were frightened of her. Kelly saw it in their eyes when they thought she was not looking. They had heard the stories about how she moved through the like a hunter stalking prey, how she killed without hesitation when necessary, how she earned the name Shadow Fang. Kelly did not like the fear, but she understood it. She had shown a side of humanity that most species did not expect. Not the friendly, curious humans who joined the Alliance with wonder and hope. The other humans, the ones who survived on by becoming its apex predator. Brad Cooper helped her deal with the attention. He reminded her that fame was temporary, but reputation was permanent. Kelly focused on her training and tried to be the soldier her father would be proud of. The investigation into the attack concluded. A corrupt supply officer had sold the training schedule to the raiders. He was arrested and faced trial. The Academy increased security protocols and added human tactical analysis to the curriculum. Kelly spent long hours in the combat simulator, working on new scenarios. Commander often observed her sessions, taking notes on her approach to problems. One day, he called her to his office. "Lieutenant, I have reviewed your performance over the past 3 months. Your tactical scores are the highest in your class. Your marksmanship ratings exceed Academy records, and your leadership evaluations show exceptional promise." Kelly stood at attention. "Thank you, sir. I am recommending you for early graduation. You have already proven yourself in real combat. Continuing basic training would waste your talents and the Academy's resources." "Sir, I would prefer to graduate with my class. I have made friends here, people I want to serve with." Tilted his head, a gesture of consideration. "Loyalty to your unit. Good. However, I am not asking your preference. I am informing you of the decision. You graduate in 2 weeks, along with 5 other cadets who have shown exceptional ability." Kelly felt mixed emotions, pride at the recognition but sadness at leaving before her time. "Who are the others, sir?" Cadets La Eth, and two others you may not know well. You will all be assigned to a new tactical unit being formed to counter pirate threats and rescue operations. Given recent events, the Alliance has decided such a unit is necessary. Who will command this unit, sir? Mandibles clicked in what Kelly had learned was a smile. That depends on how you perform in your final evaluation. The position is open. The final evaluation was held in the Academy's main arena. Thousands of cadets and instructors gathered to watch. Kelly stood with the 5 other early graduates, facing a combat scenario that had been designed specifically for them. The scenario was brutal. They were outnumbered and given impossible objectives. Standard tactics would fail. Conventional approaches would get them killed. Kelly took command naturally, though she had not been officially appointed leader. She assessed the situation, identified each team member's strengths, and devised a plan that used their diversity as an advantage. La's telepathic coordination, Ed's raw strength, technical skills, Kelly's tactical thinking and adaptability. They succeeded where larger, more experienced teams had failed, and they did it by working together, trusting each other despite their differences. Admiral himself presented their graduation certificates. When he reached Kelly, he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Lieutenant Kelly, you have shown that humans possess qualities the galaxy desperately needs: courage, determination, and the moral strength to protect others. You represent the best of what humanity can offer to the Alliance. The Admiral leaned closer and spoke more quietly. You also represent something that makes some species nervous. They see humans as potential threats now, not just allies. How you carry yourself in the coming years will shape how the galaxy views your entire species. That is a heavy burden for someone your age. Kelly met his eyes. Sir, my father taught me that representing something larger than yourself is both a privilege and a responsibility. I will do my best to honor both. I believe you will. The graduation ceremony ended with a reception in the main hall. Kelly found herself surrounded by officers from different species, all interested in meeting the famous Shadow Fang. She answered their questions politely, but tried to redirect attention to her team. La stood beside her, using her telepathic senses to warn Kelly when someone approached with hostile intentions. 3 officers to your left, La said quietly. They are conservatives who believe humans are dangerous and should not be trusted. Kelly glanced over. 3 large warriors stared at her with clear suspicion. Should I be worried? Number Eth is speaking with them. He is explaining that you saved his life and that anyone who disrespects you disrespects him. They will listen. Eth comes from an influential family. Kelly smiled slightly. I did not ask him to defend me. You do not have to ask. You are his friend. That means something to the... Brad Cooper found her later in the evening. He carried 2 glasses of something that looked like champagne but tasted like citrus and metal. Congratulations, Lieutenant, you made it. Kelly took the glass. We both did. You are getting promoted too, right? Junior Engineer First Class, not as impressive as your rank, but I am proud of it. Brad clinked his glass against hers. To humans in space, may we continue to surprise everyone. To humans in space, Kelly repeated, drinking the strange beverage. They stood together, watching the celebration. Officers from dozens of species mingled together, sharing stories and making connections. Do you ever miss Earth? Brad asked. Every day, but I knew what I was signing up for when I joined the Academy. This is bigger than homesickness. Proving humanity deserves to be here. Showing that we can contribute something valuable. That we are not just another species asking for help, but partners who can stand alongside anyone. Brad nodded. You did that, Kelly. The whole galaxy knows now. 2 days later, Kelly received her official assignment. She was named Team Leader of Tactical Response Unit 7. Her team consisted of La Eth and 3 other specialists chosen for their unique skills. Their first mission briefing came within a week. A colony on the Outer Rim was being raided by pirates. Standard forces had failed to stop them. Tactical Response Unit 7 was being sent to end the threat. Kelly stood before her team in the briefing room, looking at the faces of soldiers who had become her friends. I know some of you are nervous about serving under a human commander. I know my reputation makes some people uncomfortable, so let me be clear about how I lead. She gestured to the tactical display. I do not believe in suicide missions or meaningless sacrifice. I plan carefully, I use everyone's strengths, and I adapt when situations change. My goal is to complete the mission and bring everyone home alive. Ed spoke up, and if that is not possible, if the mission requires sacrifice. Kelly met his eyes. Then I make the hard choices, but I will never ask you to do something I would not do myself. If someone has to take the dangerous position, it will be me. If someone has to stay behind to cover the retreat, it will be me. You follow me, but I serve you. That is what leadership means. La smiled, spoken like a true shadow Fang. The team deployed to the Outer Rim colony 3 days later. The mission was difficult but successful. Kelly's tactics confused the pirates, who expected direct assault. Instead, she used stealth, misdirection, and precise strikes to eliminate their leadership and scatter their forces. No civilians were killed. Only 2 team members were injured and both recovered quickly. The mission was declared a complete success. More missions followed. Hostage rescues, counter-piracy operations, tactical strikes against enemy positions. Tactical Response Unit 7 built a reputation for impossible successes and minimal casualties. Kelly's name spread further. Shadow Fang, the human who led from the front and never lost a soldier. Some species admired her, others feared her, but all of them respected her. 6 months after graduation, Kelly received a message from Earth. Her father had sent a video recording. She watched it alone in her quarters, feeling homesick for the first time in months. Her father appeared on the screen, older than she remembered but still strong. He stood in front of their cabin in Montana, mountains visible in the background. Kelly, I have been hearing stories about you. They reach even this far out. The military news networks talk about Tactical Response Unit 7 and its human commander. They call you Shadow Fang. He smiled, that familiar expression that had comforted her throughout her childhood. I am proud of you, sweetheart, not because you are famous or decorated. I am proud because you remembered what I taught you. You protect others. You do what is right even when it is hard. You use your strength to help, not to harm. His expression grew more serious. I know you have had to do things that weigh on your conscience. Taking a life, even in defense of others, changes a person. Do not let it make you hard or cruel. Remember that your strength comes from your compassion, not despite it. He looked directly at the camera as if he could see her. Come home when you can. I will be here waiting to hear your stories. And Kelly, remember that you are not just Shadow Fang. You are still my daughter. You are still the girl who cried when we had to put down Old Blue, our hunting dog. You are still the person who would spend hours helping injured animals in the woods. Do not lose that part of yourself. The message ended. Kelly sat in silence, tears running down her face. A knock came at her door. La entered, sensing her emotional state. Are you well? Kelly wiped her eyes. My father sent a message. He reminded me who I am. La sat beside her. Shadow Fang is who you are, but it is not all you are. Sometimes I worry I am becoming someone he would not recognize. Someone who kills too easily, who has forgotten what it means to be human. La placed a hand on Kelly's shoulder. I have been inside your mind during combat. I know what you feel when you take a life. Regret, sorrow, the weight of necessity. You have not forgotten your humanity. You carry it with you even in the darkest moments. Kelly looked at her friend. Do you think we are making a difference? All these missions, all this fighting. I know we are. The colonies we have saved, the people we have rescued, the threats we have eliminated. Each mission matters. Each life we save is proof that we chose the right path. 2 years passed. Tactical Response Unit 7 became legendary. Their success rate was unmatched. Their tactics were studied in military academies across the galaxy. And their leader, the human called Shadow Fang, became a symbol of what humanity could achieve. Kelly was promoted to captain. Her team expanded to include specialists from 20 different species. She trained them all personally, ensuring they understood her philosophy of leadership and protection. She returned to Earth once, visiting her father in Montana. They spent a week hunting together, not talking about war or missions. Just father and daughter walking the mountains like they had when she was young. On her last night before returning to duty, they sat by the fire outside the cabin. Are you happy? Her father asked. Kelly thought about the question. Happy is a complicated word. I miss home, I miss simplicity, but I am doing something that matters. I am protecting people who cannot protect themselves. So yes, in a way, I am happy. Good, that is all I wanted to know. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. "Dad, do you think I made the right choice, joining the academy, leaving Earth?" He looked at her with gentle understanding. "Kelly, you are doing exactly what you were meant to do. You have a gift for protecting others. Some people are born to build things. Some are born to discover things. You were born to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. That is not a burden. It is a calling." Kelly leaned against her father's shoulder, feeling like a child again. "I will keep doing my best." That is all anyone can ask. When Kelly returned to Fortress Prime, she found orders waiting. Tactical Response Unit 7 was being deployed to a crisis zone where conventional forces had failed. The mission was dangerous, possibly fatal. She assembled her team and gave them the option to decline. Every single one of them chose to go. As they boarded their ship, Eth spoke what everyone was thinking. "We follow Shadow Fang. We trust her to lead us through the darkness." Kelly stood at the front of the ship, looking at her team. 20 soldiers from different worlds, different backgrounds, different species, united by trust and purpose. She thought about the girl who had arrived at the academy 2 years ago, dismissed and underestimated. She thought about the moment on 4 when she made the choice to fight rather than run. She thought about her father's words about doing what was right. "Let us go save some lives," Kelly said simply. The ship launched toward the stars, carrying Shadow Fang and her team toward another impossible mission. And somewhere on Earth, in a cabin in the Montana mountains, an old hunter looked up at the night sky and smiled. His daughter was out there, protecting the galaxy one mission at a time. She was still the girl who cried for injured animals, still the person who valued life and showed compassion, but she was also something more now. She was Shadow Fang, the human who proved that the most dangerous predator is not the one with the biggest claws or the thickest armor. It is the one who refuses to quit, the one who fights for others, the one who remembers that true strength comes from choosing mercy when you have the power to destroy. Kelly had shown the galaxy what humans could be, not conquerors or destroyers, but protectors and guardians. And she was just getting started. Shadow Fang, the human who hunts in the dark. The name echoed through the corridor, and Kelly realized it would follow her for the rest of her career. She was no longer just Kelly from Montana. She was Shadow Fang, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Prime, everyone knew it. Shadow Fang, the human who hunted in the dark. To quit, remember that, Kelly. When things get hard, when you feel afraid, just keep moving forward. Humans are survivors, we do not give up. Kelly checked her weapons one more time and prepared to teach these attackers what it meant to hunt a human. By nightfall, they would know her name. By nightfall, they would call her something else. Shadow Fang. Hat Forest, alone and underestimated, and do what humans had done for hundreds of thousands of years. Hunt. Kelly checked her weapon one more time, then started moving into the trees. She kept low, placed her feet carefully, and let her breathing slow. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "The deer does not know you are there until you choose to reveal yourself. Patience, Kelly, always patience." She disappeared into the forest like a shadow, and the hunt began.